What's up? Podcast World, Chad Belling back at you. This life ain't for everybody again. I'm fired up about today's guest. I'm fired up about y'all's participation, your support. Keep supporting our partners and sponsors. Thank you all so much for keeping the thoughts and prayers of all of our American communities at the front of your brain right now. It might not be affecting you personally, but it's affecting a lot of our brothers and sisters. So stay home, stay safe, take care of you, take care of yours. Find something to do. That's what I'm doing, man. I'm freaking even cleaning out my jeans, and my sock drawers are all organized and stuff I've been threatening to do, but now that I'm pushing the brakes and pumping the brakes a little bit more, I'm getting it done. So let's take something positive out of this quarantine time and keep everybody in our thoughts and prayers, and that the big man upstairs is going to get us all through this together, and we're going to come out bigger, brighter, happier on the other side of this. Today's episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody is brought to you by our friends in Nashville, Whiskey Jam. You heard me talk about Ward and the crew before. What they've done for music in the Nashville scene is unprecedented in my time. I also believe in the revival. I support all of these bands and all of these musicians that get up there and rock these stages on a Monday night. Think about it. On a Monday, Tuesday night, you could go to Nashville and it's just like it's a Friday or Saturday night anywhere in the country. So check out Whiskey Jam on Instagram at Whiskey Jam. Check out their website. Buy their merch, please. Support musicians in this time right now when they're not out on the road doing their thing. Check out Whiskey Jam. Today's episode of the podcast is also brought to you by another Tennessee-based company, Lynchburg, Tennessee, our friends at Jack Daniels. It doesn't get any more American than that. Enjoy it responsibly. But if you just got dumped, if you just won the trophy, have one, sip on one. If you're of age and you enjoy Sour Mash Tennessee whiskey, there's nothing like Jack Daniels. We truly appreciate what you do for all of our brands, Jack. And we can't wait to meet up with you again, but we're not going to get in a fight with you. Like many country songs have been written about, Jack Daniels, probably the most iconic liquor alcohol brand in the history of the world besides maybe Anheuser-Busch. That's a pretty good argument right there. Today's guest is an absolute badass, and I'm talking about when you hear a hook or you get a first chance to make an impression. You always hear you never get a second chance to make a first one. And you got, as a musician, a lot of times, like you take a audition, that kind of mentality. Sometimes you don't get a second chance. This dude blew me out of the water. As soon as I heard the first key or the first tone of his voice, I started comparing him to some of the people that I sat back and went, wow, those people they're like some of the greatest musicians of all time, in my opinion. And I'm going to ask him his opinion today if my comparison even resonated with this man, because I know how humble he is, but I also know how awesome he is. Paul McDonald, brother, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for the lovely intro.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, it's funny to see how you react. I don't know if you're one of those kind of guys, but there's arrogance and there's confidence and there's cockiness, and there's another level of not even being able to take a compliment. I talk about myself sometimes to where, as a duck hunter, I've gotten to do really amazing things that I'm very humbled by. And it seems like it almost wants to become the topic of a lot of the conversations that I get around. Like if I'm with my buddies back home and it's just it talks like, hey, Belding, what have you been up to? And if I tell them what I'm up to, it's almost like, one, they're not going to believe it. And two, it's going to take over the conversation. There's going to be, so I kind of shade away from the compliments or like the of telling somebody what I'm doing or who I'm talking to. Because I don't take it for granted. It's really special to me to get to do it, but I don't know if you're that same way. Like I've went and researched a lot of things said about you. And if those things were being said about me, I would be like, really, am I believing the hype? Like this is like the real deal, who they're comparing you to, what they say about you. Are you the same way? You kind of just like let it ricochet off of you?
I think you have to, man, in order to just stay level. I mean, all that stuff is just opinions, and if you start believing the hype, then I feel like you're not moving forward in a way, So whenever you bring up those phenomenal artists, I go, whoa, thank you, but like that's those guys are out of my league. That's a whole different.
But do you truly feel that way with the confidence that you have in the music that you're writing and displaying and composing? Do you really feel like that? And I know that you're humble, but do you really sit there and think that they're out of your league?
I don't think that they are out of my league. I think we've both put it in the same amount of. I mean, it's a lot of that stuff has to do with timing and how hard you're working and I don't know. After being on the road and just working for 15 years, you obviously kind of fall into a place where you go, I know I can can hang, because occasionally you'll hop up on stage with somebody that is one of those folks, and at the end of it, it's a mutual respect kind of thing. But I still like to look up to those guys, and just, it's so, like, those artists were people that I was inspired, growing up listening to. So anytime I get to meet my heroes like that, I'm very just like, I've never asked for a photo or anything. I'm just kind of like, hey, thank you for what you did. Just want to let you know.
Give me an example. Now, wait, I want this example of how this one went down. Stevie Wonder. I heard that you've been on, you've shared stage with Stevie Wonder. Like, that dude is musical genius, right? Like, I remember the Eddie Murphy skit, like the skit, like, yeah, you want to impress me, Stevie, take the wheel kind of deal. But Eddie's like, that dude is a musical genius, right? When he was around him on Saturday Night Live and stuff. Yeah, tell me about Stevie.
He's another level. That the time that I got to sing with Stevie Wonder, we did a medley of his hits, and it was when I was living in LA doing a TV show. It was Steven Tyler's birthday, so Steven Tyler was there. They brought out Steven a birthday cake, and we sang him happy birthday, and Stevie Wonder was there, and we ran a medley of his hits and sang happy birthday, happy birthday to you, and we really did not get to talk that much. It was just like rehearsal, go, boom. Stevie was in and out so fast. But the wild thing about it is I bumped into him like a week later at the Beverly Hilton, just eating breakfast. and I was like, man, should I go say hello to him? Like, because we were playing last week, but we never got to actually meet. And I'm sure a million people approached him, so I didn't even go up and say anything to him. But it was one for the books. That was a once in a lifetime kind of just, the longer you do it, occasionally those things pop up where I'm not even believing the story myself, just saying it out loud,
But bro, Stevie Wonder, John Mayer, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the Revivalist, Zach Brown. I can keep going and going and going. Hanson, Emmylou Harris. Like, you think about like a melting pot of musicians, and that's my problem with you, Paul, is like, I don't know if I was a radio programmer where I could put you. Like, when I listen to your music, I'm like, well, that's country, but that's Jack White. But Jack White's got a lot of country roots in him too. But Paul rocks. Jack White rocks. Emmylou Harris, though, like, Emmylou Harris is country, but she's soulful and she's bluesy. You're bluesy and you're soulful. I don't know if you rap or freestyle and do hip hop and work a turntable, but like, as far as musicianship goes, like, where do you put yourself? Where, if I'm a radio programmer, can I put you in a box and say, on the country radio today, we're going to put this, on the bro country radio today, we're going to put this, on the rock station, where would I put Paul McDonald?
I don't know. I feel like it falls somewhere in like a rock and roll soul. It's just I was raised like listening to a lot of like 70s like folk music, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, Joni Mitchell, songwriters, and Jackson Browne. I've been listening to tons of Jackson Browne recently. But I don't know. I like to think that my music just feels like organic, real music, soul rock, a little bit of soul, rock and roll, and country. So it can kind of just fall wherever. But I guess that's up for the radio programmers to decide, or someone else that gets the records, But it's I like to think of it as real, honest music,
One of the people that are saying things about you are people that are some who's who in Hollywood, in Nashville, in the industry. Does that part of it mess with your head when you hear a quote by somebody that you might look up to, or somebody that you do have respect for because you've met them, you've played with them, you've recorded with them, you've jammed with them, you've sessioned with them? Does that differentiate between that and just some critic going, oh, that dude sounds, or just some duck hunter in Reno going, you sound like Jack White, or you remind me of Jack White, is how I put it. I actually said you remind me if Jack White and Axl Rose had an affair and were able to have a kid, that's who you reminded me of. The way you move, the way you sing. I need to
steal this line and send that to every radio promoter.
But when somebody like this quote right here resonates, like, if you watch the Defiant ones, you've seen the documentary?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if people haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch the Defiant ones. But this guy, that was the star of the Defiant Ones? You know him.
Jimmy Iovine, when I lived out in Los Angeles, he was like a mentor. We would go in and do these sessions at Interscope, and he was like, I would meet up with him. I mean, very short moments, but we would meet up like once a week, and he'd come in and kind of oversee the sessions and that kind of stuff. And I guess he said something about me that at that point in time, my manager or somebody remembered it, and now it's in the press packet.
You'll always know who Paul McDonald is. Out of 1 million singers, you'll know him. That's so rare. It's such a gift. This dude owns Beats. He helped make Dr. Dre. He's like, I can't even tell you the story of Jimmy Iovine as far as like sweeping the floors back in the days when iconic bands were recording, the things he's done with the iconic voices of today. And for him to say that about you, either you're the kind of guy that would say, oh, Chad, he was probably drunk off his ass and didn't remember saying that. But the deal is, Paul, is that he said it. Like that can't just be another duck hunter in Nevada's opinion about your music.
That is true. And Jimmy, I remember sitting with him. I mean, it's been years ago now, but we would talk art and music, and I just remember him always being super kind to me. We did a session one day with Don Was over at Capitol Studios, and Don at the time was doing John Mayer's record, and he had worked with the Stones and all these guys. The band was phenomenal that day, and Jimmy was in there, and it was interesting working with him. I mean, he at this point in his career, he was focused primarily on the beat stuff. The beat stuff had just kind of taken off, so he wasn't as involved as like an engineer or a producer or that kind of thing. But man, it was pretty inspiring just being around someone that works that fast. It's that gifted and has been around that many great people. I mean, like Tom Petty, John Lennon, he just worked with some of the greatest. So being in his presence, I just learned so much. I learned so much, being around those kind of people, that's how you grow. And I think, and also how to, and you learn not to take it to your head. I was at that point in my life, I was just a sponge, and I still am. I'm just always trying to soak up information from people that are better than me,
Well, I don't know better, but
just have different skills.
But I understand. I love the analogy of being a sponge and being teachable and being coachable and not being an ignorant know-it-all that you're the baddest ass on stage. There's always somebody better. And the thing about learning somebody's story is so key of like, this guy, he might just come across as some dude with a beard and some badass hair that, there's a lot of people in Nashville that look like you, but then you hear like, well, when you learn this guy's story and his experiences, like that's what really gets down to the substance of somebody, right? So that's what means, that's when like Jimmy Iovine says something like that, like, well, he knows you, he says that, and he means that. Like that dude's not just going to waste his breath to say that because he's heard thousands and thousands of voices, right? He's seen thousands and thousands of performances. So when you mention people like Mayer and you have a connection with him and you've been on stage with Zach Brown, and there's a big connection between John Mayer and the Zach Brown band with Clay Cook and Matt Mangiano and his band, who are some of the just geniuses of our time musically, Clay Cook and Coy Bulls. But Clay and Matt Mangiano, the bassist, they're at Berkeley. John Mayer's at Berkeley in Boston. They meet, they form, they start writing songs. And is this kind of your connection between the two of them, or did you just meet them happenstance?
I met those guys. I had a band when I first started in college. It was a band called High Tide Blues, and we were playing the bar scene. We were doing like Peachtree Tavern in Atlanta and Sky Bar in Auburn, just playing the Southeastern college circuit. And at that point in time, Zach Brown was doing the same stuff. So we were riding around in a 15-passenger van, and we would open up for him at small rock clubs. And then our old manager was from Atlanta as well. So that whole world of the Zach Brown band and the musicians in Atlanta, we were kind of intertwined with. I was at college at Auburn at the time, which was a two-hour drive, but that was how we got to know those guys, just through playing the same clubs when they first started off. I mean, or when they were still in a van in a trailer kind of thing, You
were at the University of Auburn?
Yeah, I went to Auburn, yeah.
Did you ever get to play in an alumni event for Bo Jackson and rock out for Bo?
No, no.
What? That's my favorite. That's my favorite athlete of all time, dude.
Bo Jackson is the best.
Dude, if I took this computer and rocked it around our studio, I'm a groupie. Like I have every poster made, every baseball card, every football card. It's brutal.
Yeah. Man, but yeah, Bo Jackson's brilliant, man. I used to have the poster of him with the football pads.
Oh yeah, dude. I have poses of me when I signed my college scholarship. I put my shoulder pads on in high school and I had my bat over it. I was taking pictures. My dad was having me pose. Oh yeah, Bo is awesome, man.
There was a quote in like a local newspaper for my first band, High Tide Blues, and I remember sending this to my father because I had 2 classes left and I was dropping out of school to be in the band. And the newspaper article said, High Tide Blues, which was our band at the time, best thing to come out of Auburn since Bo Jackson.
No way. Did you keep it?
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. It's at my band.
You got to find it and send and take a picture of it for me, dude.
I should put that one on the bio now, even though it's 15 years old now. But
so what, dude? That's Bo freaking Jackson. Yeah, man.
I've never got to meet him. Back when we were at school there, Cam Newton was there, so he would come to shows occasionally, and Ronnie Brown, Cadillac, Carnell Williams was there. Like it was that time. But yeah, man, it was fun.
I'd say my Auburn royalty is Bo with what he did in track and field, football and basketball, winning the Heisman, All-American, broke the 50-yard dash or 50-meter dash in the NCAA track and field. Then you got Frank Thomas who can mash, and then you got Barkley. So those would probably be my 3. I like Cam too, but those are my Hall of Fame.
Those are the 3 for sure.
Yeah.
I was looking up YouTube videos the other day of Bo Jackson, like some of like his throws from he was an ace from outfield with these
Baltimore, when he threw that ball from left field from the warning track, flat-footed on a line on a P and threw oh man, I used to know that he threw him out at home plate. But yeah, the other day I was doing a podcast with my buddy Michael Waddell, who has a show called Bone Collector. He's from the state of Georgia. He lives in Booger Bottom, Georgia. Big Brent Cobb fan. He was actually at Brent Cobb's. Brent played a show for me in February for National Wild Turkey on Broadway, and Michael was there, and we got to hang out on the bus, and we were talking about Bo because Michael had just done a squirrel hunt in Georgia with Jackie Bushman. It's called the Squirrel Classic, and they get these teams and they raise all this money for charity, and then they do a big squirrel cookout. And Bo Jackson was the celebrity hunter in it, and I was like, and I was invited to go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Bo was. They were sending me pictures and selfies of them and Bo, and then on top of that, and then Michael airs this episode a couple weeks ago on the Outdoor Channel. His show's called Bone Collector, and it's really, really successful brand. And he was doing a show in Bessemer, Alabama, when the tornado went through there. And he was taking the organizer of the relief fund on a turkey hunt, but they went to some of the grave sites and the homesteads, and they just showed how therapeutic hunting in the outdoors are. But Bessemer's where Bo was born in 1962. So that whole correlation is so weird to me that Michael's filming in Bessemer, Alabama. Destruction just happens. He gets to give back through the hunting community, gets tears in their eyes when this guy gets to see the experience, what he gets to experience. They get to go feed, the families around there that just lost everything they had. And then he's hunting with Bo Jackson, and that's where Bo Jackson was born, where that show took place. So that's kind of cool, yeah?
I mean, yeah, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I bet you feel like you missed out on that one.
Oh, dude, man. It's like that. When I saw the pictures, I was cussing at him a little bit. I was, when you play music, do you get into character? And is that character different than the guy I'm talking to right now? Some baseball players or some football players, they get a different mentality, obviously, in the competitiveness world where they can't even be approached when they're between the lines, right? But as a musician, do you get that way? Do you think Slash gets that way when the Les Paul's in his hand and he goes from being Megan Hodges' boyfriend to Slash, and he's up on stage in front of 100,000 and he's ripping through these chords? Is that a character? Is Slash a character? Is that really who he became? I know that's his nickname, but is that truly who he is?
I mean, that's you'd have to ask him that question. I mean, I can only.
I'm just comparing it to you. Like, is that who you are? When you get on stage, do you turn into somebody else?
I do turn into a different character right now. I mean, if I was trying to host a show, sitting down here, or do a rock show, just kind of with this chill energy, it's a whole different thing when you're playing with a band. And there's people in front of you, and you're not wearing, you know, your everyday street clothes. It's hard to say, but yeah, you definitely go into character sometimes. I always feel a little bit, especially if I'm wearing like a rhinestone suit or something a little bit over the top. Like when you walk out, there's just a little bit more of a comfort factor, and yeah, it's just a bigger version of yourself. It's still me, but it's I get to be a little bit more over the top. You know, with a band, I'm a little bit. I'm an entertainer. I'm jumping around. I'm moving, but it's not on purpose. It's out of the feeling that I get from the music and from the band. It's nothing's insincere when I'm up there, you know. But
I can tell.
Yeah, I feel the most comfortable on stage, to be honest, you know.
And I would probably venture to say that a lot of musicians that get to a certain level of talent probably do, even though I bet you some take a minute to get that ability or that mindset because it's so intimidating to, and before it becomes natural, there's got to be a grace period to where it's scary as hell.
I think for me, I just been doing it for so long. So like I started playing, I mean, not crazy long, but I started playing in bands when I was 16 years old. And then I started doing more like full on, you know, doing it for a living, and started in college. So I was like, you know, playing 200 shows a year kind of thing. And at that point in time, I remember when I first started out, you had to play covers. We're doing college bars, and it was like 4-hour sets, that kind of thing. So we would be doing, you know, 80% covers, and we toss in 20% of original songs. And when you're playing 4 or 5 nights a week, 4 hours at a time, you just kind of have to get used to it. And at that point in time, I wasn't a good guitar player. I wasn't a good singer, wasn't a good songwriter. But the people that were the owners of the clubs were saying, like, man, if you don't entertain these people, then you don't get paid. So before I was a good songwriter, a good singer, a guitar player, I was an entertainer. So I was, you know, it was more of that. And then over the years, you get better and better at your craft, obviously. You know, it's just like exercising. But I for some reason, I was never that scared walking on stage, ever, you know?
So when you talk about cover band, right? There's influence there. There's inspiration there. You don't just pull those songs out of your ass and go, I'm just going to do it for the hell, even though you might take a request and say, let's see if we can get that one done. But as far as Paul McDonald goes, give me a rundown of who you would put in that category. And I don't have to know him. Is it Freddie Mercury? Because you even have a little Freddie in you, right? One of the greatest frontmen of all time. Like, he's unreal, right? Iconic. But is that an influence? I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm putting you on his level, so I don't want you to backlash me and go, guys, I know that he's better than you in your opinion, but I'm saying that's who I would see kind of being an influence. In my opinion, like, that's your style. That's who you're rocking like. As far as you ever being as iconic as Freddie Mercury, I don't know if any frontman ever could, right? With what he stood for and what he did.
That's a difficult thing for anyone to touch.
Right.
You know, frontman wise, I'm inspired. I mean, Mick Jagger is one of my all-time favorites, man. The Rolling Stones.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that was always, you know, someone that I looked up to. Iggy Pop's a great frontman. I mean, like, but it was always Mick Jagger was kind of the
why
David Bowie. I don't Mick Jagger. I just love I love the Stones music. I love the attitude that those guys, you know, at that point in time, it was almost like Stones versus the Beatles, and they were a little bit the darker side. And I just love the attitude, man. And I love the looseness of the music, because at the time that was the band I was in. It was, we weren't very good, but it was loose and it had a feel, and it felt like the Stones, you know?
And when you talk about what you brought, I'm reading notes on my phone about some of the things in your packet of when you talk about like what the Stones meant to you, do you take it as a 365 degree encompassing thing? Like, for example, and again, I get on my Guns N' Roses kick, but I really liked how they brought it all full circle, from the songwriting to the masters of their craft, to the musicianship, to the lyric, to the guitar playing, to the melodies, and then the stage presence. Okay, so all of that full circle to me is like what the Stones encompassed and what Queen encompassed, where a lot of bands don't get that, or they don't have that longevity because they don't have that central unit of the encompassing of what it really means to be a true rock legendary band. Not that GNR is better than anybody else, which they are, in case anybody's wondering. But that was, when I see them on stage, I'm like, that is so authentic and so raw. And that is what they always were when they moved to LA and started doing stuff in 85. It was about the jungle and the rawness. And the Stones, like you just said, they were dark and they were raw and they made no apologies for it.
They never changed, man. And that's my favorite artists are those people that know exactly who they are and then just stick to it. I mean, that's and with whatever genre it is, if you're just wholeheartedly yourself, then you cannot, you can't say a bad thing about him. You know, it's like you're talking about Brent Cobb. Brent's one of those guys, man. Even if you don't like country music, you gotta like Brent Cobb, man, because he just is, man.
Is he not one of the best going right now?
Man, he's awesome, dude. I love him, and I've only got to hang with him a handful of times. We've just played a few different gigs in Crossing, but we got a bunch of mutual friends. But every time I get to hang with him, man, he's just nothing but the sweetest guy, man, and such a talent, you know.
Oh man, and I'm so thankful for the ego-ness that there's not with you guys, because I have a certain way of being able to, you know, get songs out there, music, just of the people that we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I don't go to somebody like a Leith Lofton or a Brent Cobb and have them develop a skin or an attitude like it's, hey man, what are you doing now? What are you doing kind of deal, right? What are you doing talking to him kind of thing? It's like when I tell Brent, like, hey man, I get to throw down with Paul, he's like, dude, that guy's on another level. That dude is a badass. And it's like, that's so cool. It's almost like you guys called each other on what to say to me. Hey, if Chad calls you. And isn't that though? It's like way unego and like not any arrogance at all. It's like, hell yeah, go support Paul and go do this. And that's what I love about this group that I'm working with, or getting the opportunity. And I'm humbled to be able to talk to you or learn about your career and listen to your music, and how it's cool for me to go and support Brent Cobb. And it's just a cool cohesiveness, man, that you guys have going on.
Yeah, you got to root for all your friends, you know. It's like, yeah, I think I got over the whole, you know, trying to compete and do all that stuff back a long time ago. I mean, that stuff it'll just bring you down.
Let me ask you this. When people hear about musicians and you see like the different levels of fame, different levels of celebrity, different levels of revenue, you guys are making a career. Let's not let this be anything less than this is an art that is your career. This is what you guys do for your livelihood. So with that being said, there's different levels of that. You got the Beatles, you got Garth Brooks, you have guys that are Major League Baseball players, guys that are janitors. There's different of levels of everything in life. It does not make anybody a better human being than the other person. It might give them a little bit more access and availability to different things in life. But the thing about your guys' stance is, are you making a career of this? Are you making a living being a professional musician, a professional artist? This is art, what you do. You are an artist. Brent Cobb is an artist. You guys are not manufactured acts. And there is a such thing as a manufactured act in LA and in Nashville. Yeah. So are you making a living with your talents and your artistic value as a singer, as a songwriter, as a frontman, as a performer?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, some years are better than others, as you know, with anything in the entertainment world. But yeah, I've been doing it full time almost 15 years now. And like I said, some years have been great. And some years I'm like, man, I got to pick up like a side gig when I'm home for a second, you know, and help my buddy paint some houses or something. But it still goes in and out. And yeah, this past year I was on tour, God, most of the year. And
I'm hearing ramblings of like 200 shows a year. Is this true?
Yeah, that's where I'd like to be. Last year was probably 150 or something like that. Like I did maybe 3 tours around the U.S. So I was never home. But yeah, I love playing. I love
Full
traveling. I
band?
love playing. This past year, I did a duo, and then I did solo acoustic as an opening act for artists. But if I'm doing festivals or different things like that, then I have a band, and that's where I would love to be. But man, it's just expensive to have guys come out on the road with you. Um, on the way up on the club level,
So as you're coming up, you have experienced some different things through life. You were married. You lived in LA. You live in Nashville now?
Yep, live in Nashville. Yeah, I'm just
Okay, so take me through. This wife was an actress, and I know there had to be crazy times. I don't want to get into your love life. I don't want to bring up old memories, but I'm a pretty inquisitive person, and I'm kind of a sponge. We've already talked about this. I like to listen. Even though I talk a lot, I still listen a lot. Give me some stories of LA, dude. There's got to be a Sunset Strip story. There's got to be a Hollywood Hills story. Is there anything that would make me fall off my chair and laugh my ass off or anything?
I'm trying to think. There was so many of them because at the time, I mean, she was in a giant movie franchise, and she just been living in LA for so long. She'd been out there since a kid, and she had been in the business since she was a kid. So, I mean, we would get invited over to like dinner parties at Dustin Hoffman's house, and just, I mean, there was so much random stuff that if I'm saying it out loud, it sounds like I'm making it up.
Like we talked about, huh?
Yeah.
See, this is it. Like you can't go into a dinner party and be like, "Hey, Paul, what do you?" Well, it's funny you ask. I was at Dustin Hoffman's last night, and the night before, I was chilling with Steven Tyler at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunday. No, you weren't, you liar. No, truly, I was. It's not even worth telling them.
It's not even worth bringing up a lot of times because when you live out there in that world and that circle of things, you're bound to bump into those people, and it was just like you'd show up at an event, you'd show up at a thing, and then you'd be at a table sitting with like these people that, like, if I show up now to a dinner party in East Nashville with my musician friends, occasionally they'll be talking about like celebrity gossip, or do you see this movie or this, and this. And I'm going like, I want to say something like to be like, oh yeah, well the one time I was, but then it's like, it's not even worth doing it.
Not even worth it.
It's be like, oh, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
But it's so interesting though that life and music took you there. How did you meet her? Am I getting in too much shit?
No, it's all good. I met her when I moved out to LA for a TV show, and she was a fan of the show. So she came out, we met at a red carpet event. Yeah. You can still Google it online, how we met, and you can see the moment because it was on live TV at the time. And yeah, she'd just been watching the show, and she was a fan of what I was doing. Came up and said hello, and we hit it off, and then it just kind of that's how it worked.
So does it bring up a bad vibe in you to think about hardships like this, to where you have that documented proof of that look, that feeling, that holy shit feeling, this is it feeling, and then to go way up and then to hit rock bottom with it, like so many songs that you probably write about will tell that story? Does that affect you in a way to where recovery was harder than you thought, or has it made you a better musician? Have you found more roots or anything? Like, has anything come out of the hardship that came with that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like with any hardship, if you don't learn and grow from it, then I feel like you have to, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and going through that time. It wasn't just so much, splitting up with a person you love, but it was also coming off of some really intense Los Angeles times. With at that point in time, paparazzi lived outside our home pretty much, and it was just a constant. Like, I went from, like I told you, playing rock clubs in a 15-passenger van, with my buddies, to going out to LA to this extravagant kind of interesting thing. And so coming out of that relationship, I was also coming out of like LA and transitioning back to being a normal musician that was playing in East Nashville and just writing songs with my buds. And it was a lot, man. It took me a few years to kind of recover and get over that whole thing, but I learned a whole lot about myself and grew up real quick during that time.
Yeah, I would think that would be a lot of artistic downtime that you really start to like become more connected with yourself? I've gone through that to where I just like get so much more connected with what my true being is. And I think that that's what life is all about. Life isn't easy, man. Life is like, if you don't have a good understanding that this life can just destroy you, like we're so blessed to be here. But there's times when you're like, man, you got to learn from this, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, but there's some underlying message that's trying to be told to you. And it's our job as humans, with our thinking capability, with these things we have in our head called brains, of what we do with that instance and what that experience is happening for. I always say, and I get some, pushback on it, that everything happens for a reason, Paul, but I truly feel like you met her for a reason, and I don't know you. This is, we're going to be buddies, but we're not buddies yet. I mean, we're buddies, but we're not good friends yet, but we're going to be friends. I just know it. But they're not knowing you. I'm just saying, like, there has to be so much that goes into that instance in a man's life, to where of course it's going to hit him and hit her, obviously. And it's up to you to be like, all right, why did that happen? Why did I meet her? How did that all go down? Why is it ending? Something is telling me something here right now. And that's the hard part to figure out.
Yeah. It's really being aware and tapping into yourself and going like, it wasn't her fault, my fault. What was the whole deal? What is this? What's the lesson here? And I needed that time after the fact. I wrote so many songs, and I was writing so many songs and taking that energy and trying to, turn it into art. And in a way, I think some of the best artists are the folks that take those layers that are and those hardships, and they can turn them into art. And looking back, I'm like, man, I write much. I feel like I'm a much better writer when I'm in that kind of headspace. But my body is saying, like, I hate being sad. Like, that was like such a bad time.
Yeah, but like our mutual friend Brent Cobb says, there's nothing wrong with it, and that loneliness is value. Like, loneliness has a lot of value to it. So again, you can wake up alone, like I do, which sucks a lot of times, but there's a reason why I'm spending this time alone. And that if you're afraid to be alone, you're not getting the true value out of what that alone time is. And in our world today, as Brent Cobb puts it, which that little smart son of a bitch, like, I don't know how he got so smart, because I know he don't read a whole bunch. I wouldn't think he did. I don't know if people from Georgia know how to read. You think they'll hear me say that?
So it's like,
I'm messing around. We get up in the morning, and the first thing we do is go to where the charger's plugged in, and we get this little apparatus off of that charger. And then we go on these little things called social media. And what happens? We don't think we're alone anymore, because we're afraid. We're afraid to be alone. So we attach ourselves to all these people that we don't know, and we live their lives like, oh, she's so happy today. Look at her. Look at him. He's running a marathon. I'm like, Brent's like, don't do that. When you wake up, discipline yourself 30, 45 minutes, an hour alone in the dark of laying there and getting to know you better and working on you. And that people are afraid to do that because loneliness goes with the word depression, and depression isn't necessarily bad. We are depressed. We got to like that feeling, because that's what makes the happier times better. To say that you're never sad and never depressed is like saying that you don't like candy, or you don't like mom's apple pie, or you don't like sex. That's stupid. These are all human emotions, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's I love that he says that I really love being alone. I was alone for, when I moved back from LA, I was single for probably 4 or 5 years. And I lived in this exact condo by myself with a little studio, and just, I exercised every day. I had a routine if I wasn't out doing shows, and I wrote songs and just tapped into my who I was, like, without anyone, without anything, any noise. Like, what do I enjoy doing? Because also, like, coming out from LA, I was also in this whole thing where my identity was just based around my music and the person I was with and a lot of things. And I was kind of going, well, who am I without all of that? If I woke up tomorrow and I didn't have this voice, and I didn't know how to write songs, who am I with none of that removed as a person? And it gave me a little bit more insight into that world, things that I enjoy.
Are you an emotional person, Paul?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when you write, do you ever make yourself tear up?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the greatest freaking feeling in the world, to where a man I'm 45 years old, and the greatest feeling, not the greatest, but a really good feeling for me, bro, is when I find emotion in things that I'm supposed to be emotional about. So if I'm watching Bambi and I'm supposed to like get teary-eyed over that deal, I'm glad that my nervous system and my central system allows me to do so. I take pride in that. I don't hide that. Like if I am watching a documentary to where I see some inspiration, I get teared up over happy things. Like that makes me feel good to see people living that. Like that's awesome, right? So I'll get teared up over that because I want to be emotionally connected and grounded to those types of instances, because if not, I feel like I would just be going through the motions and not getting the true message of what they're trying to tell me.
Of course, yeah, you're just jaded on things. Like, man, I met somebody. We were doing this Songwriters in Paradise gig. Who I'm not sure if you know some of these guys, Channing Wilson and a bunch of guys that I feel
Love
like
him. Love him.
Brilliant as well, man.
Did you listen to that song they released today?
Oh yeah.
That train wreck song.
Dude, he's been playing that for years. That's like the one that everyone's just like, come on, man.
Dude, I saw her. I want you to tell me this songwriting deal, but I saw him. I didn't see him post it. I think Randy Montana or somebody posted it, and I clicked on it, and I'm like, God dang, she's got Jamie Johnson singing harmonies with her, and I'm like, that's not Jamie Johnson, that's Channing. And then it popped up on Channing's feed, and I'm like, good night, does he sound good on that song, dude? Yeah, he's legend, man.
He is, man. That dude. What's nuts is I only recently have become friends with him in the past few years. Like we just ran in different circles, and then suddenly we crossed up, and it was the same deal when I met Brent. It was like we looked at each other and was like, all right, yeah, like we're
I got you.
Yeah, man.
So you're at this songwriting deal, and go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was bringing it back to being jaded. There was a guy who I sat down at the bar with. Who had sailed all around the world and had, you name it, he had done it. I was just like, tell me this. I was pretty much just listening. It was a therapy session for him, I feel like. And he was just letting me know how he was in these biker gangs. He had the fastest bikes in the world and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And he just said he was waiting around. He was bored with life. He's like, I've done everything. I just feel like alone, like there's nothing else for me to do. And I asked him, I was like, well, have you been in love? We went down that road, and it just made me real sad, thinking that that someone would be that jaded on everything. We've done everything, but I was like, you need to like, what about like real friends? Like family, love, like these conversations. There are deeper things that are not so, accolades or whatever. They can make you feel important and like you have a purpose on here. Like maybe this conversation is your purpose. I don't know.
Isn't that crazy? That's just like that. I could see it making you feel that way. Like it's almost. I
was like, don't give up, man.
Yeah, like it's almost like how do you get to that point? Like let's take. God, I hate bringing shit like this up because it truly makes me sad. But let's take like. I don't know if jaded goes with sickness. I don't know if there's a disease that like somebody like Cornell went through.
Yep.
Let's take Chris, or there's so many guys we've lost so many good ones lately, but like Robin Williams, like how can from the outside looking in, how can you look at Chris Cornell and what he did with Temple of the Dog and what he did with Audio Slave and what he did with Garden and what he did with Zach Brown on that thing that they did, and just genius, right? Like one of the best of all time. And from the outside looking in, you're like, how can it get any better? And then that happens and you're like, is that jaded that causes that? Like nothing can ever affect me anymore and I don't need to be here anymore kind of approach. I don't get it. It just it doesn't make sense to me.
I feel like it's got to be some kind of clinical depression stuff. But then again, I have never experienced that level. Those kind of guys are
But are they jaded? Are they jaded because of the experiences that they get to see? Kind of like you sitting in that songwriting round or the bar in Nashville and people are looking up on the screen and going, oh, look, Rain Man's on. And you're like, oh, about Rain Man. Are you jaded to that experience right there that you can't be you? You've already been there, done that. So you're not getting the most out of that experience. And on top of that, your friends and the people that are there with you are not getting the most out of Paul because you just had an opportunity to say, dude, Dustin's a cool dude, because you automatically are jaded by your experience. Like, I don't think anybody wants to hear about this. They're not going to believe it. That's being jaded.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what.
But what do you have to offer if you don't have that? That's what you were put in that group to do, was to share that experience. That's what you do through song.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That is true. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in thinking that being jaded could cause it to get to that point that you really don't give a shit anymore? Like it's over. Life as we know it is over.
I mean, at that point, those kind of guys, like I can't imagine their experience on Earth, like characters like Johnny Depp, but I don't feel you, because guys like Tom Hanks don't feel that way. Like they don't seem like they are jaded. You know, things still excite them, but I can't imagine like someone at that level of fame, where no matter wherever you go in the world, you can't have an actual interaction with anyone or anything. It's always just a microscope on you outside of a handful of people in a close-knit space. That has to wear on you. And maybe that's the reason for that kind of stuff. You never know. I don't know. I mean, I remember the day Robin Williams died. We wrote a song. This is another example of living in LA stuff. But at the time, I had a band with a girl named Lily Kershaw, we were just writing songs together. Brilliant LA artist, super poetic, has an amazing voice, and she was good friends with Zelda, which is Robin's daughter. And so at the time, we were hanging in that camp and just going up to her house. I just actually reached out to her yesterday because I thought about it, and I was like, man, we were watching a Robin Williams documentary, and it just made me think about those times. But we had written a song about it, and she was like, my friend's dad just passed away, and let's write a song about this. And we wrote a song about it, and then I realized it was Robin Williams. Man, it was just some sad times because he was such a positive energy on
what was the song called?
We never released it, but I bet you I can find it.
So look at what you just did there, right there, with what you just told me. Like, I bring up Mork and Mindy, and you go into saying like how that affected you. I think that is so freaking awesome that you're sitting in that group of people and Mork and Mindy come on the TV and you're like, I wrote a song with this girl I was with is Zelda's friend, and Zelda lost her dad. It just happened to be wrong. And if people will look at that and say, oh, shut up, we don't need to hear about your limelight life, I look at that at like, you were put in that position to be able to write that song, make that girl feel something, and be able to tell that story to people of what fucking human emotion has to do with living life the right way. I just cussed. I apologize. But I get so worked up over this is because you just said it. You get jaded to the point to where, can Cornell go into an observation or just a certain, I worded that wrong, go into an experience to where it becomes an observation to him to where he doesn't feel comfortable and he can't let him true self be. And that's what you're doing on this level in Nashville. If you're out there when you have so much to say, like that story right there is awesome. And you would have been in that Nashville bar and been like, well, I don't think I should say that story because these guys are probably sick of hearing it. And to me, that's your ability to say, hey man, this is what I was put on earth to do. I was put in that position to be able to share this shit. Absolutely. That to me is like, that's cool, bro. Man, I don't look at it as raw. I look at it as freaking good on you, man.
Dude, it was a heavy song, man. We had this band. I can send it out. I'll text it over to you when I find it. But yeah, I never thought that I would be in the place to do that. And I remember, we were over at her place within that time, you know, like it was tough, man. It was tough, especially being that close to what was going on, you know, like it's crazy.
I think it's rad that you can find that you have experiences like that to pull from, and then to be able to put them on a level that anybody that hears it can get something out of it. That's a talent. Not everybody can do that. I woke up this morning and experienced some awesome shit, man. I got some really cool phone calls. I got some really good inspiration. I made other people feel good. I was able to do something for somebody to make their lives better. And I can't go sit down and write that story in 3 minutes and put a guitar in my hands and then send it to somebody like Brent Cobb or a studio or whatever and have them go, Paul, get in here and record. I don't have that talent. That is why songwriting, that is why music is not supposed to be freaking cubicle country. It is not supposed to be manufactured. It is supposed to be as real can get. And from the earliest days of music, the songwriters, like Brent Cobb says, we keep quoting him, but he says, the greats write when they're high, they write when they're sober. And Brent Cobb says, you know what, Chad? I like being high, but I like being sober just as much. He goes, that's what life's all about. I like to be sad. I love to be sad because I love being happy. And you know what? I love drinking 4 beers when I'm fishing for brim with my daughters. And you know what? I like to drink water with my wife talking about Jesus on a Sunday. I like all of that. And that to me is key, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Isn't that I just think that the talent that you guys have, I'm not envious of it because I was put on earth to do something else. But to be a true songwriter is one of the sickest, and sick in a good way, the sickest, baddest ass talents that a human being can possess. The shit that John Prine would put on paper, and then you go back and hear like Bruised Orange right now, and like Guy Clark, when you listen to that song that Brett Cobb turn me on to, Anyway I Love You, when you hear that, and if you don't tear up, and if you don't get emotionally pleased with life, then you're not freaking living the right way. And I truly feel that way.
Yeah. John Prine is another one, man. It's just such a brilliant artist.
That the majority probably never got the gist of what he was saying, dude. I'm being for real. Like Brent says it too. Like I didn't find John Prine till late in life, and neither did Brent Cobb.
He was late for me too. Yeah, he was late for me. Like I mean, those early records were. I mean, it was '70s, but I was always Dylan. It was
Willie and Waylon. Like me, I was.
Oh yeah, and it was never like John Prine was late in life for me, man.
Me
and
too.
Really, even Channing was like, dude, you got to listen to some of these, because I would be in places like next to these brilliant songwriters, and they would be like, "You idiot, you haven't heard, you don't know that song?" And I'm like, "No,
oh shit."
Here I am, this like rock and roll, like I'm like, oh man, but I'm sitting here next to y'all playing, like I better go home and do some research, next time I'm hanging out with you, I don't look like an idiot.
Yeah, that's how I was when I heard some of the songs, like just like the hits, like the big ones. And then when you lay down a song like Angel from Montgomery and you hear Susan Tedeschi or Bonnie do it, you're just like, oh wow. Like
that version with Bonnie Raitt and John Prine singing on it is like
it's like why we were born. We were born to hear that. Like they weren't born to sing it. We were born to hear that. Like that should be in every delivery room in the country. Every baby should hear that version of Angel from Montgomery when they're coming out of their mama's womb.
I mean, I'll vote for that.
Could you imagine like being able to tell that story? You're like in Orlando and you're with a bunch of strangers and you're like, yeah, my favorite song is Angel from Montgomery, and all 7 of them go, mine too. And then you're like, I wonder why. It's because every delivery room in the country that's the first song we heard. That's my John Prine theory. That dude is just to lose him and Diffie. And like, hey, it's life, man. We're supposed to feel emotion. I don't know those guys, but that hits me because they told me stories in 3 minutes, man. 3 minutes.
Like,
hey, we got some time left. We're going to do this again because we got to keep this going because you got so much to say. And I never know how a first podcast with somebody's going to go, if you're going to jive with me. And obviously we can banter back and forth. And I want to get into, though, like you've made mention of rock and roll and what you do on stage. But you also made reference to this last year of being unplugged and playing acoustical and being by yourself. Will you do a couple for us? Can you? Are you set up right there?
Yeah, sure.
You got enough axes behind you?
I got plenty of axes over here. I'm just there's too many, to be honest with you.
Are those all acoustical?
These are all acoustics. I got electrics back in the other room. Yes.
Tell me the story. We have about 18 minutes left. In reality, that's enough time to sing 6 songs if they average 3 minutes, but I would never ask you to do that. I'm asking you to tell me the story of, is Wild Card a co-write? Is it your idea? And how do you come up with the idea if it is your idea?
That was a co-write, but I wrote that song. At that point in life, I hadn't done too many co-writes. I was writing all on my own for my earlier band records. And when I came back into town from LA, I just coming out of that divorce. So I was really trying to make friends, to be honest. And I met up with one of my old college friends who worked at a big publishing company. I said, hey, I want to meet some people to write songs with. So we set up writing sessions every day of the week so I could just go in and meet new people pretty much. I didn't want to feel so by myself in that moment. So I wrote that one, but I had the majority of it finished before I walked it in. But I can tell you the story behind that one as well. I mean, I just started dating a girl, and things were going good. This was the first girl I dated since my marriage, and it was just like a fling looking back on it, but a fling enough for me to write a handful of songs for this last record. But she was beautiful, talented, amazing, and she's done phenomenal things since then. But she's do
you get sad? Do you get sad right now thinking about dating her?
No, man, I don't get sad. It's like looking back on your life, like different. It's like thinking about anyone that's inspired me or got to me a place, and this girl it was a short period of time, but she got me from one place to the next, and I'll always remember her for that.
I love it. So this is Wild Card.
This is Wild Card. Yeah. At this point in time, I was hanging out at Bonnaroo, and she was getting back with the person that she was supposed to be with. I don't know what you've been up to, but all my friends seem to think that they do. They keep telling me things I'd rather not hear. So just be honest with me, I don't care. I need to hear from your red lips right here. We're both too keen for some goddamn else. Darling, you're a wild card. You say you love me, then you're wrecking my heart. You're so confusing and you're hard to find, but when you want some loving and you're right by my side, darling, you're a wild card. You say you love me, but right now you're breaking my heart. Darling, you're a wild card. Yeah, you say it, I should let you go, but then you're reaching for my hand to hold on. Say you don't want no company, then you put your body sleeping alone. Yeah, you're hot, you're cold, you're never warm. You're down, but you're always torn. Nothing got reasons to keep sticking around. You're singing, darling, you're a wild card. You say you love it and you're wrecking my heart. It's so confusing and you're hard to find, but when you want some loving and you're right by my side, darling, you're a wild card. You say you love me, but right now you're breaking my heart. Darling, you're a wild card. Got a feeling that you're never gonna slow down. I got a feeling that you are the type of girl to stick around. I got a feeling if I say I love you now, you'll be on your way faster than I could even say. Darling, you're a wild card. You say you love me, then you're wrecking my heart. You're so confusing and you're hard to find, but when you want some loving and you're right by my side, darling, you're a wild card. You say you love me, but right now you're breaking my heart. Darling, you're a wild Darling, you're wild card. She's breaking my heart, you're breaking my heart. I don't know what you've been up to, but all my friends seem to think they do. They keep telling me things not here.
Oh, good. Damn it, boy. That's strong, man.
Thanks, man.
I told you that my studio can't quit playing it, dude. They're just like,
no way, man.
I swear, man, like ripping it.
Man, it's got a cool boom, 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 boom. The electric part is tight.
That song's so killer, man.
Yeah,
what about God, I don't want to ask you to do too many. I'm just going to ask you to do one more. I got to ask you to, if you can lay down.
Depends on how old it is. Some of these old ones I can't remember all the time.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to have a few, but I wanted to hear either "Hold On," "Come On," or "I Ain't Good."
Oh damn, dude! You know what's crazy, man? I wrote "I Ain't Good" with my girlfriend, and now, but I wrote it like years and years and years ago, and now we're dating, which is kind of cool. She put it in her set, and I put it in mine. But now I'm like, oh yeah.
Is it one of the ones you dig?
Oh man, I love it. Yeah, our versions are completely different for the records, but it's so cool you brought it up.
Hold on a second. I want to get these guys in here to hear it with me. Hold on. This is one that the studio. Is that cool if I bring Tom and Clay in here?
I don't know if I'll be able to do it with this acoustic. Let's see. See, ain't got time for you, lady. Man, I haven't played it in so long. I'll do another one. I'll do another one.
Which one you want to do?
Let's do. Come on.
Hold on a second. I want to get Clay and Tom. Okay. You can close that real quick. Listen to this. Hey, this is Tom and this is Clay. This is Paul McDonald, the guy that we've been ripping to. Come and listen to this. I don't know if we'll be able to hear it good, but all right, go. What's this going to be called?
So this one is "Come On."
This is "Come On."
This is I think this is Channon's favorite one of mine, but this is the same. This is about the same. It's the same person, but the idea is behind the song is it's about the person in between. You know, this is about a girl I had just fallen out of love, and she just fallen out of love. So we weren't trying to fall in love again, but we got together for this moment in time. That's it. Yeah, you hold me like a cigarette, and from the very first day, you had me all choked up. You had me dizzy in my head. I hold you underneath my tongue, show you off to everyone. But it's just a matter of time until the sun creeps up and the trucks are all gone. I can feel a hole in you. Baby, there's a hole in me too. I'm looking for a late night fix to ease my mind. I'm sure that you could use one too. Yeah, I know it ain't love, but it's better than being alone. So if you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. If you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. So now I'm wishing we were married. Hold me tight like your past and don't ever forget it. Neither here and now. Cause it's all we're ever gonna get. Baby, let your feelings dry. Yeah, just let it all out. It's just a matter of time until the sun peeps up and the trucks hit all around. I can feel a hole in you. Baby, there's a hole in me too. I'm looking for a late night fix to ease my mind. I'm sure that you could use one too. Yeah, I know it ain't love, but it's better than being alone. Yeah, I know it's just lust, but it's better than sleeping alone. So if you wanna come on, come on. Hey, if you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Hey, if you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. I can feel a hole. Baby, there's a hole in my heart. I'm just looking for that late night fix to ease my mind. Sure that you could use one too. Yeah, I can feel a hole in you. Baby, there's a hole in me too. I'm looking for a late night fix to ease my mind. Sure that you could use one too. Yeah, I know it ain't love, but it's better than being alone. Yeah, I know it's just lust, but it's better than sleeping alone. So if you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. If you wanna come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. If you wanna come on, come on. Come on. Yeah, I can feel a hole. Baby, there's a hole in my heart too. I'm just looking for the late night fix to ease my mind. I'm sure that you could use one too.
What do you think, Tom and Clay? Cool. Awesome, buddy.
Right on, man. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, he's all over. But it's on the server. I was just editing to that stuff.
All the
when
time?
I get good music, it's crazy. I just want to use every song to every edit I do.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. I'll bust out "I Ain't Good" on the next episode. I haven't played it in so long.
Normally, I Ain't Good on the next episode. That's my favorite song. I like that. I love Wild Card, but I Ain't Good, man. That's a ripping song. Well, let's do this again, bro. I can't wait.
I would love to, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we'll just have a continuous little deal. And when you get a new song ready to drop or you got a new show you want us to help promote and plug, then we're all about the music, man. It's really hitting us. We like it.
Right on, brother. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, let me know when all this stuff clears up, man. Let's get together.
Hell yeah. I'll be having you come out and do some jams for us and hiring you to do some shows. It'll be rocking.
Dude, I'm all about it. Brother.
I can't wait, man. That's another episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody. Y'all check out Paul. Give us your Instagram.
It is at the Paul McDonald, ThePaulMcDonald.
At the Paul McDonald. Website?
ThePaulMcDonald.com.
bpaulmcdonald.com. ThePaulMcDonald.com. Everything has the in front of it. THE. Check out his art. This is true art. I still can't get over the Jimmy Iovine quote. Tom, I'm telling you, the big show on HBO that Jimmy Iovine quoted about him saying, I'll let you read the quote, but it's pretty much saying, when you hear Paul McDonald sing, you won't forget him. He's one of those guys that you'll never forget kind of deal. And that it's and Jimmy says it's a very rare talent to have, and that's rare to have.
It's pretty impressive. I'm happy that my manager at the time got that quote from me because I would have forgotten it already.
That's awesome, dude. Well, congrats, man. And I'm gonna go YouTube some stuff. Hopefully, I can find some stuff of you jamming with Stevie Wonder. That'd be really cool to see, dude. Congratulations on it, brother. We'll get together again. We'll be rooting for you. That's been another episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody. Check out more of Paul's work. He's got so many good songs on any of your music provider platforms. Tom, hit that button. We're going to go out with a Paul McDonald song today. We're going to go out with I Ain't Good. This is I Ain't Good by Paul McDonald. You've been listening to This Life Ain't For Everybody. Please keep supporting the partners and sponsors that support us. Today's episode, again, was brought to you by our friends at Whiskey Jam and Jack Daniels. Enjoy it responsibly. This is Chad Belding. Tom, hit that button. Paul McDonald, I Ain't Good.